Okay, Kinderlach. No, these are only on YouTube. Okay, Kinderlach, we're on page 18 and 19. We are discussing the neshama, the soul. We're going to look at the 5 levels of the soul today, but we're going to start with the words of Rosh Shlomo Wolbe, and then the Chavetz Chaim's introduction to the Mishnah Brura. So let's do that together. I don't know why you have to always sit right at the back, you people. You're making my life difficult. I have to shout so loudly. You can come close. I don't bite. Is that cool enough to... yeah, because I'm shouting. That's why you can hear me. Okay. Let's look at Rav Shlomo Wolbe. And he says that, he quotes a Gemara in Sanhedrin that says, each and every person must say, says the Gemara, Kol echad ve'echad chayav lomar bishvili nivra ha'olam. The world was created for me. That's the statement of the Gemara, a very famous statement from Sanhedrin. What does that statement even mean? Sounds a little bit narcissistic, doesn't it? The world was created for me. What does that mean? Okay. Yeah.
They should feel that like you have a purpose in it.
Okay, so you have a unique mission in this world. When it says for me, it doesn't mean for me, my body, it means for my mission in this world, that I have a mission that's unique, that no other neshama can fulfill. By the way, we were talking about the body before. You'll notice that among humans, no two people look the same. The Gemara says, Kashem, she'ein partzufin shaveh, just as two faces are not the same, two neshamot are not the same either. Your body comes to reflect your inner sense. Can I show you something very cool, actually? I read a number of years ago, Rav Dessler talks about this. He says that, have you noticed how married couples, the older they get, the more they start to look like each other? Have you noticed this before? Yeah. It's like a thing people see. They notice it. There's this very, very deep idea about people who start to look like their spouse. He says that it's actually not the way most people think about it. Most people think that their personality is formed by their looks and by their actions. The way you act, the way you look, determines your personality. He said other way around. Everyone is given a unique neshama, a unique soul. Your soul is unique and has stamped on it your unique mission in this world. You are then given a body and a face that's going to represent your neshama, your soul, right? Because that's going to be your kelim, your vessel. It's going to help you fulfill your mission in this world. So people think, first comes my body, and then your personality comes from your body, your physical attributes. It's the other way around. It starts with your soul mission, and then you're given a body, because your soul predates everything, then you're given a body when you're born, right, with attributes and character traits that actually help you fulfill your soul mission. He says, imagine you have two people who have a very similar soul mission, which husbands and wives ideally are meant to have. So they actually have very similar souls, because their soul mission is the same. Then as they start to produce that, they start to look like each other because your body starts to reflect your neshama, not the other way around. And that's why he says you'll start to see people, actually when they get married, will start to look like each other, because it shows that their soul identity is also very similar, and that's why you'll see people start to look like each other. It's a wild idea. It's just the exact opposite to how most people think, right? Their character traits come from their looks and their personalities, and their various attributes. Really, your soul is the real you. Right? As I always like to say, you don't have a soul, you are a soul. And Hashem gives you a body that reflects your soul mission in this world. And that's why husbands and wives will look like each other, invariably, because they're just physical beings that represent their soul's missions. So it makes sense, they actually look like each other. Yeah. Yes, your character traits and your personality. Now, there's nature, but there's also nurture, right? Even your body, right? You have genetics that make up your body, but then a person could genetically be meant to be 6 foot, but if they're malnourished, they'll end up being 5 foot. So it even works with your physical genetics too. But with your soul, you're given certain attributes, certain soul traits. Everyone has their own individual soul traits. And then depending on what they do with it, they can either advance those or they get stunted and shortened. So just because a person's given a certain soul trait, intelligence, I don't know, mathematical ability, anger, whatever it is, you have the ability to overcome those soul traits or improve or enhance them based upon your actions. That's what the Kliyaka said at the beginning of the course. It's always about your actions themselves. Okay, so each and every person must declare the world was created for me. That means for my soul and my soul mission. And therefore, says Rashi, and he quotes Rashi, that's why a person has to see themselves as important as each human. Each human is an entire world. It's like an entire world. And that's why a person should not do an Aveirah, because they're driving their souls out of this world. That's what Rashi takes from this. And Rav Wolbe then comments on this Gemara, on this Rashi, like the entire world. What does that mean? Chashuvani ka'olam maleh, an entire world. This is the one-time life experience of a particular person. Since there was never a person like you in the past, and there isn't one alive now, and there will not be in the future. That means your soul was chosen to arrive in this world at a specific time, specific place, with these specific set of characteristics, to these specific parents, with this specific intelligence and all the rest of it. It's all very, very precisely planned. There is no coincidence when your soul, where and when your soul lands in this world. Like geographically, there's a reason you're born in New York or America or Great Neck or China or Africa, wherever it is. Everyone's soul was deliberately, systematically put into that place, into that family, with those, get ready for it, siblings. You know what I'm talking about. That older brother, who right now drives you crazy, but one day will, protect and defend you. All of that comes from there's no coincidence with it. That's what he's saying. That's what it means. I'm an entire world, because the entire world revolves around me at this time in this place. Yeah. That's actually what the expression that everyone has their own chelek shebetorah, their own portion in the Torah. It doesn't mean a bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah portion. It means that everyone has their own unique role. By the way, where is this given to the person? Where is this given to a person? Probably the most famous Gemara that nobody understands at all. Every school kid knows this. Right? They don't know the Aseret Dibro, but they'll know this. In your mother's womb, an angel comes and teaches you the entire Torah, and you're about to leave the womb, and then you get smacked on the lip. You hear this? And that's where the little indentation comes from. What a ridiculous thing to teach people. What kind of Gemara is that? It's like I take you, and I teach you everything you need to know about life, and then you're about to leave, and then I punch you in the face, and you forget it. What does this mean? Actually, the Gemara says, it's a Gemara in, I think, Gittin, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, an angel, teaches you the entire Torah. It means everything about you, what's going to happen to you, every event that's going to happen to your life is shown to you before you come to who you're going to marry, what job, everything. And then as you're about to be born, it hits you right here, and then you forget it all. So the commentator said, I think the Maharal says this, but others do too. They say, what does that mean? It means that your neshama has inside it every piece of knowledge that it needs in order to achieve its soul mission in this world. And then you forget it because you have to have free will in terms of your decisions you make in this world. So the idea of being hit on the mouth is, the mouth is the opening of the speech, which helps you manifest your soul mission by what you say and what you do, but it's driven inside you, so it's there. That's why certain things happen to you, like, I feel like it's happened before, like maybe deja vu comes from this, I'm not sure, right? That's one interpretation. It's not a scientific one, but it's a spiritual one. But the idea is that I'm able to hear this idea, and it resonates with me because it was downloaded into my neshama before I was born. That's the way to look at it in modern expression.
Wait, say that again.
Every event, everything you need to know in order to achieve your life mission was put into you, and then it's forgotten, but it's forgotten on a surface level. But sometimes you'll hear or do something or meet someone and they resonate, or this thing resonates with you. If you're living like a Torah life, it starts to resonate because you are recapturing something that was put in, that's why the mouth was put inside you in order to speak it out, to achieve your mission. But it's inside, it's in your neshama. This lesson the Malach gave you, actually is inside you. It's just forgotten on a surface level. But when things happen, it starts to resonate, starts to, vibrate inside you. I'm just saying that some people say that's where the idea of deja vu comes from, because you hear something, you're like, oh, that resonates. Why would an idea resonate with you and not one else? Because this is what the Malach gave you. So it's all there from when you're inside as a fetus inside the womb. That's really what it's all about. I don't know if it's the Gemara, but I've heard from one of my great teachers, but I've seen it inside as well, that one of the first faces you see when you leave this world is this face of this angel who comes to you after you leave this world, and they're like, okay, so did you do what I gave you, the tools to do? And then the neshama gets very uncomfortable and lets out a scream, and some say it realized what it could have done and it didn't, and it sees its other friends, what they achieved and what they could have achieved. It's a whole episode that happens after a person leaves this world. Okay, but that's another discussion. So basically that's the idea. It's the uniqueness and the unique value of every single neshama in this world. Okay, let's turn to page 19. Let's have a look at the introduction of the Chafetz Chaim to the Mishnah Brura. Mishnah Brura is the law book of the Rav Yisrael Cohen HaKohen of all the mitzvot. And he says like this. He says, everything that exists on this world, everything that Hashem created, needs to be sustained. Every physical being needs to eat and drink and sleep, and if you're human, be clothed and find shelter. Everything needs sustenance. Hashem sustains everything. He's koneh hakol, as we say in the Amidah. Hashem sustains it all. But we humans, we already discussed, are made up of body and soul. So how is the body sustained? We said you eat and you sleep, you have shelter. According to the Rambam, you eat healthily, you exercise, you do things to help maintain your body. If you adjust a body, that would be sufficient, right? You just feed and sleep and drink and that's it. You're good to go. Dayenu. He's like, but we're also made of a soul. We're also made of a soul. And he gives the following famous analogy that body and soul are like a body with clothing on. Right? Like he actually says Shabbat clothing. Shabbat clothing is like the body given to the soul. It houses the soul. Probably better, well, I shouldn't say better because Chofetz Chaim, but a different analogy is like a Torah and a cover of a Torah. The cover of the Torah is made of cloth or silver or metal. But the body of the Torah, the actual covering, takes on Kedusha because of its proximity to the soul. Right? And that's why you can't just throw away the cover. Right? Because its closeness to the Torah gives it an inherent Kedusha. The body too has an inherent holiness because of its proximity to the soul. Which is why we don't cremate chas v'chalila. Right? We treat a dead body, although the soul has left it, for the most part, a little bit does stay, to be fair, but it takes on a holiness because of its proximity, and therefore it's treated well. We bury it, and we don't, defile it in any way. Okay, fine. So what sustains the soul? So he says, okay, so what sustains a soul is spiritual acts. That's what sustains the soul. And for a Jew, those spiritual acts come in the form of Torah mitzvot, which is why he's mentioning this in his introduction to the Mishnah Brura. He's about to discuss all the mitzvot a person has to do. Those mitzvot are done with the body, except for 6 of them, which we do with our minds. But all the mitzvot we're going to see involve actions. You eat something like matzah, you hear something like the shofar. It always involved a ma'aseh, an action. However, the soul is that part that's being sustained by it. So when a person leaves this world, the only thing, says Perkei Avot and elsewhere, the only thing they take with you are your ma'asim tov, your good acts. Leave this world with you. Because your body stays here. But your neshama goes into Olam Haba, into Gan Eden and Olam HaNeshamot, the world of souls. The only thing it has are your good deeds. Like, you can't take stuff with you. Although many cultures throughout history have tried to do that. You can't take it with you. But you do take your actions. So those actions are what are imprinted on your neshama, on your soul. So your soul goes to the next world. So what sustains your soul in the next world? Well, in this world, by eating, you sustain your soul, right? Because that's how you live. But in the next world, it's the Torah mitzvah that you did. That's what he says. Okay? The soul is eternal, and its sustenance, he says, must be eternal. And the soul is part of Hashem, God. So it must be the same thing. So he's like, yeah. So the way you sustain your soul for eternity is via good actions, by ma'asim tovim, Torah, mitzvot, and other good things in this world. That is the mechanism by which your soul achieves eternity. Because it's not sustained by a food, your soul. Right, we know that. So what sustains it? Your good actions are what sustains your soul in this world, but really, ultimately, for the next world. Yeah.
If you, let's say, like grew up not religious, not keeping mitzvot, anything like that, and then you only started later in life, so to some degree, it almost feels like you're at a disadvantage.
So you would have thought you're at a disadvantage starting later in life, but the exact opposite is true. They say that the makom shel Bal Tshuva oimdim, the place where Bal Tshuva stands, afilu tzadikim gemurim lo yicholam bo, are not able to stand in. So a Bal Tshuva actually, and some of our greatest heroes and heroines, Rabbi Akiva, for example, and converts, which is the ultimate, are considered new creations, and they actually retroactively fix their entire lives and are considered greater. That's number one. By the way, the Gemara goes even further and says that a person can change their life in even one moment. The mitzvah of teshuvah really applies the day before you die. You just don't know when you're going to die, so you do it every day. But one moment can turn it all and retroactively fixes every past event you did. So a person should not say, and the Gemara says that people shouldn't say, oh, I've done so many averot, and so many, which everyone does, right? Ain't done balichet. There's no human who doesn't do sins, right? But say, I've done so much, not worth it. It's the exact opposite is true. One good action can turn it all to the good. Boop, like that. Even Shah Achas. And that's why Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, when he heard this teaching, burst out crying. So the Gemara says, I worked my entire life on it, and one person can turn it around in one moment. Some say he cried because he was upset, like, why, it's so easy, right? And it was so difficult for me. And some say, no, he cried tears of joy at how anyone can turn their life around. So that, is that it? Yes, Sarah, you had a question, a thought, comment? Okay, fabulous. Let's have a look at the 5 levels of the neshama and how where they're located and how they're, okay.
What are you said those mitzvot are done with the body except 6. Did we talk about the 6?
No, we're going to do the 6. There are 6 mitzvot that we do with the brain. They're called the shesh mitzvot tamidiyot, that a person does with their mind by thinking. Okay? To believe in God and to love God and to not follow hearts and eyes. All these are thought mitzvot. Fear God, love God. But all the rest of them involve ma'asim actions. We shall get to mitzvot, and we'll do that list, and then we'll do mitzvot, how they categorize, and then we're going to do mitzvot for non-Jewish people. They also have mitzvot. 7 to be specific. All right, let's do the 5 levels of the neshama. So today's number is 5 levels of soul. That's today. Let's go through these 5, and we're going to start. No?
In the Gemara?
Nope. 5 levels of the neshama. Maybe different class. Oh no, that's different. Those are the 5 locations of the soul. These are the 5 levels of a person's soul. Okay. And they are. We are on page 20. We'll look at the Midrash, and then the Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, in Derech Hashem, is going to specify these 5 levels, and Rav Chaim Volozhin is going to give us a little bit more information. So let's go through these 5. Okay? 5 for the price of... 1. Let's start with the lowest level. So I guess, you know what? Let's do it backwards then, if that's okay with you. 5, 4, 3, 2. Let's do it like that, okay? Because this is the lowest level. The lowest level of the neshama is called the, you know, you got to know this, nefesh. Right? The nefesh is the lowest level of neshama, also called the nefesh bahamit, the animal level of the soul. The animalistic, the nefesh bahima. Okay? That's the lowest level. Up, and I'm going to tell you where this is located, what happens to it. One up from this is the ruach, which translates really as like the spirit. I guess you could say the spirit is the ruach. Above this level comes the neshama, the neshama. Now that's also the go-to term for all 5, although sometimes all 5 are called nefesh. But this is, we're going to see the most important really. We'll see why, although it's only like the middle level. And that is, I guess they call this the soul. So it's actually one level of the 5 levels, but it's also the term for all 5. Above this we have the chaya and the yechidah. Now these 2 levels is translated, I guess, as, you know, God's, the soul's animation and uniqueness. But I'm actually going to draw a line, because these 2 are actually not located in this world. They are part of a person's soul in Shemayim, said the rabbis. We're going to see the Ramchal and Rav Chaim is going to talk about that. So these are the 3 that we're fascinated with: the neshama, ruach, and nefesh. And these 3 terms are found in Tanakh, right? Always found in Tanakh, whether it's the Torah or in the Nevi'im, and they are referred to as naran. Whenever you see the expression in Jewish writings of naran, it's referring to neshama, ruach, and nefesh, right? The animal and the ruach, the spirit and the neshama. Let's break these down and then we'll see it inside. So the animal refers to the same attributes that we have. And so animals do have a level of soul, but not like a human. They have nefesh. They have nefesh. And nefesh is the animalistic desires. So the desire to eat and sleep and etc., drink and have relationships, all comes from the animal level of the soul. Okay? That's over here. The nefesh is located in the body, and the rabbis actually give us a location for it, which based upon a pasuk in the Torah, and this name may not be literal, maybe some degree it is. It's called, the nefesh is located in the hadam, here nefesh, in the blood. This is the blood, the life force. Okay? And that, by the way, is why you're not allowed to drink animal blood. That is a Torah prohibition. That's why we always wash the blood away, and we salt meat before we eat it, because hadami nefesh. By the way, human blood is also forbidden, but on a rabbinic level. That's why if you get like a blood on your finger, you probably shouldn't suck it off, right? That's rabbinically, if it's already in your mouth, it's fine. But blood actually is the lower life force, and by doing that's why we always wash, clean out, and salt meat to draw the blood out so we don't eat it. And if you ever have a steak, a little bit of red, it's just some kind of hemoglobin. It's not actual blood you're drinking when you eat your steak. Yeah.
Why is it only
Human blood is not part. This, the Torah speaks about dami nefesh. It means in general, but it's only the animal blood. That's the character traits of the animal should not be eaten and taken in by the human. I hear, but it's forbidden. Maybe because of Marasayim, by the way. Maybe that's why the rabbis forbade it, because it looks like you're eating animal blood. For human blood. Well, you're not allowed to eat a human, right? But it's rabbinically prohibited. I don't know. Okay, so that's in the blood. The neshama is in the, what's the highest level of a person? Their moach, their brain. Right, so that's the dam. This is the moach. Yeah, this is the moach. That's in the brain. Animals do not have a neshama. They only have a nefesh. You'll see in a second why I skipped. They only have only humans have neshama. Only this level gets you into Olam Haba. You want to talk about Mashiach and Olam Haba, you need to have the milchama between neshama and nefesh. This is the desire to stay in bed, and this is the desire to get up. This is the desire to hurt, this is the desire to do good. Okay? It's neshama and nefesh. That is the battle that we are. That's the milchama that the Kli Yakar and the Ramchal were speaking about before. Okay? Even Adam HaRishon. So free will comes from the decisions based upon the battle. That's why animals don't have free will. They have instinct, but they don't go to Olam Haba because they don't deal with the battles that we humans do. So what's this then? Why do we need this? So ruach, what does the word ruach literally mean? Wind, right. Wind or spirit. Okay? So this is where, when this battle is had, this is where it comes out. In the ruach. In the ruach. And it is located in the heart. Your emotions. Okay? That is the heart. And this is, each one represents a faculty. So moach this is thought. This is action. So this is speech. Because you speak from the heart. And that's why the highest level of speech is prayer, tefillah. And it's called avodah shebalev. Prayer is the highest level of speech, talking to God. But it's called service of the heart. Which makes sense, yeah? Because that's where the speech comes from, the prayer comes from your heart. You meant to pray with an emotion. It's also part of the moach, but it's part of the heart. Okay? And that's why speech, that's why it's a wind. Speech is basically just a wind, air coming out of your mouth. So we have thought, action, and speech. Animals only have action, they don't speak. That's why humans are called the medaber, the speakers. One of the ways that humans are identified in rabbinic literature, they're called the medaber, the speaker. Animals communicate, sometimes in better ways than we do, but they do not have the faculty of speech. They do not become speaking beings. Remember that? When Adam was created, came a ruach mamalla, a speaking being. Did we mention that? I don't remember. Okay, so those are your three levels. That's where they're located, and that is what they do. They help you think and do and speak. Yeah.
You said, what was the other one first? I thought it's medaber.
So humans are called, rabbinic literature calls them medaber, the speakers. If you look at the pasuk about the creation of mankind, when Hashem blew in the life force, we did that, Ran? Baruch Apav, right? Onkelos, I should have done it back then actually, translates it as a ruach mamalla, a speaking being. A speaking being. I think I mentioned it because how do you see speech? Through writing words, not writing words. And the earliest writing we have actually goes back 6,000 years, which corresponds with the 6,000 years that humanity as we know it through in the neshama has existed. Remember that little discussion we had back then? Okay, yeah.
Sorry, this is more of a technical question. Ramallah is spelled Resh Mem Lamed Hey.
What?
Ramallah.
What's Ramallah? That's a place you don't want to visit.
I was a little.
Oh, it's Aramaic. It's a ruach mamalala. That's how Onkelos translates it. You don't need to write down this. Just so you know that when Hashem put the neshama into Adam, Onkelos translates a nefesh chai as a living being as a speaking being. Because your speech is what differentiates us from the animal kingdom. Otherwise, we do everything that they do. Right? They have a brain, but they don't have a yetzer hara in the way that we do. They don't operate on a free will basis.
So Ruach Mimalala.
Ruach mamala is the Aramaic translation of Onkelos on the words of the pasuk describing creation of man. Okay, let's do it inside. So come a little bit easier. That was the outside, let's do it together inside. And we're on page 20. And the Ramchal says, even though the neshama is generally called a soul, and there's one word for all of it, he says no. There are actually many souls that are connected like links in a chain. Now that's a very interesting expression that others use and he's using, like a shalshelet. A shalshelet. A chain. All these 5 are located, wherever they're located, but they all influence are impacted by others. Like a chain. Yeah, you pull one, the others are going to be pulled up by it. Or you know, there's like Russian dolls. You know Russian dolls, like one's inside the other? You move the outer one aside, all the others are going to move around as well. You know, they're all going to be impacted. So to the chain, if you pull up, then the rest are going to be impacted. You pull down, they'll be impacted. So they all interact. So that's what he says. Just as a chain is composed of links, all these links are still a composition of one single chain, right? One spirit. So that's the metaphor the Ramchal is using, which still kind of works. Okay? And he says, which is connected to the blood, as we've mentioned. He says the blood is the lowest level because that's the nefesh. He says it's possible that some of these parts may be removed at certain times and return later. What? What was that? Parts of your soul may be able to leave, he says. What he's talking about is hard to really understand, and come back at later times. And it wouldn't even affect the body in any way, right? Because the body's still there. And none of these soul's actions can really be seen or impact the body. The body can impact the soul by its actions, but the way a soul operates, you can't really see it on the body itself. Okay? Because your soul is your true essence. It's who you really, really are. He then goes on to say a little bit that there is a time that you get an extra soul. And that's a neshama yetera, and that's on Shabbat. You get a neshama yetera, an extra soul. Now there's a dispute what that means. Does that mean literally another level of the soul? A 6th level that's called neshama yetera? Most people say no, it just means an expanded version of these 5 levels. That's on Shabbat. That's called the neshama yetera. So on Shabbat, your soul becomes more enhanced as Shabbat comes in, and then when Shabbat leaves, it goes away, this extra level of the soul. That's why the rabbis say, vayenafash actually means oy nefesh. Your nefesh goes through pain on Motzei Shabbat, because that little extra soul leaves. Vayenafash is oy nefesh. Interesting, but okay, it is what it is. All right?
Sorry. How are you getting oy nefesh?
Oh, it's not written in here. Just it says vayenafash, that word, right? And a person rests. Vayenafash, actually made up of 2 words, means oy nefesh. Oy means oy. That on Motzei Shabbat you receive a nefesh. As Shabbat comes, you get an extra soul, which Rashi says gives you the ability to eat and drink and enjoy more physicality in order to enhance the soul's enjoyment.
How is oy spelled?
Vav vav. Yud oy. There's a Chazal. I'm not making that up. There's such a Chazal that says that. There's a few. But it's not a literal translation.
You say that in Havdalah, right? And you're saying that.
That's why you do Havdalah, in order to lift up your spirit after the neshama leaves you.
And we enjoy more physicality
On Shabbat, in order to enjoy Shabbat more. The extra soul gives you, that's what Rashi says, an expanded nefesh. I used to teach classes here at Stern on the philosophy of Shabbat many years ago. I've not done it for years. I substituted it for Hilchot Shabbat instead. But the rabbis talk about it in great detail. What happens to the soul on the Shema? It's completely different. It's a completely different soul. That's why every mitzvah you do on Shabbat is worth 1,000 times more than, and every Aveirah you do on Shabbat impacts your soul much, much more negatively. Okay, let's see Rav Chaim Volozhiner, and he's going to tell you about what we just said. And he's going to bring down the verse proofs for each of them. And he says there's 3 aspects of life: action, speech, and thought. And these are nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Oh, we spoke about that already, yeah. Action is in the nefesh. right? And he brings down, because the pasuk says that the nefesh will do. The word ma'aseh and nefesh are connected. Ha-nefesh asher ta'aseh. Okay? And dam ha-nefesh teaches that the blood is in there, the lowest level. That's what keeps us alive. He actually says it's in the blood, also in the liver, right? Because the liver is, the one that's engorged with most blood. And the organs, right, are based upon the circulation of the blood. Speech is ruach. And he brings down a verse from Samuel the prophet. It says, Ruach Hashem diber bi. Right? The soul, the Ruach of God spoke within me. So Nevuah, actually, I take it back. Prayer isn't the highest level of speech. Nevuah, prophecy is the highest level of speech. So he actually refers to Nevuah as Ruach. Right? A spirit enters them. It just means that they're accessing that part of the neshama to speak the words of God, to channel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what he says. Oh, there it is. What he said a few. Ruach Mamallah, on page 21, third paragraph down in the Hebrew. He says that's why Onkelos translates the Nefesh Chai, a living being, as Ruach Mamallah, a speaking being. So that level of the soul that speaks is the Ruach. Yeah.
So he didn't say anything new, right?
What?
He didn't say anything new, right?
New as in?
Like that we didn't learn.
No, I just did that outside and I was seeing, the source for it. Okay? And he says, why is it called Ruach, spirit? Because when you speak, it's basically air coming out of your mouth. Right? So that's the power of speech, and that comes from the heart. That's where speech and heart is a metaphor, of course, for the emotional aspects of a person. The emotional aspects. And finally, neshama, which represents wisdom and sichliut, and thinking, is located in the brain, because that's the most leve. That's why your brain is at the top of your body, right? Because the idea of it's the highest part, right? The closest to the spiritual realm. Good. And then you have Chayechid, he says, which exists on a spiritual plane. By the way, when a person lo aleinu gets karet means spiritual excision. Some say that you're being disconnected from the root souls in Shemayim. But you could do teshuva for that, right? You could just reconnect it. But certain averot, the person gets karet for, and one interpretation of karet is this disconnect from the higher levels. Right? A person, eats chametz on Pesach or food on Yom Kippur or whatever, they get karet or they sleep with the nida. They disconnect from chaya and yechida. Good. Alrighty. And that finishes that. That went quickly. Thoughts, comments, questions? Anyone still here? That's it. So to recap, you have 5 levels of your soul. Each are connected like a chain, and each one impacts the other. And animals are nefesh. We have nefesh too, because we have these physical attributes. Neshama is the soul, right? When you think your soul thinks from your brain, and hopefully. And then spirit is like when these two fight it out, it comes out in the spirit, in the ruach, because that's when you speak out. Highest level of which is prayer, or nevuah, because actually nevuah is called speech of the lips, niv safatayim, and it comes out through ruach, okay, which is located in the heart, because it was an emotional experience, and that's why prophecy only came to people who were happy. You had to be in a good mood to get prophecy. You could be the smartest person in the world, but if you weren't in good spirit, right, even works in English, if you weren't in good spirit, you couldn't get nevuah. That's why Yaakov Avinu, when he was depressed over Yosef going, he lost his nevuah at that time. Certain times that a person lose their nevuah. How would they bring prophecy among themselves? So the first time we see Shaul, King Saul, receive prophecy is when he heard music. He heard music and it uplifted his soul. He was able to receive prophecy for the first time. Good. Either you're totally with me or I lost you all at shalom.
You said that he wasn't
King Saul. King Saul received nevuah, but his spirit had to be lifted. That's why David HaMelech is represented by which object? Which object? A harp, right, or a violin, whatever it was, we're not too sure. But a musical instrument, he would actually put it, says the Gemara, in his window. And those his windows were basically holes in the wall. And the wind would come in, and somehow he was able to fashion this harp at a certain angle. And the wind would come in, and it would play the harp. Music would come against it, like wind chimes or something. I'm not particularly sure. And he would hear this music, and he'd wake up, and he would receive prophecy through that by being uplifted, being in a good mood. Yeah, his spirit had to be lifted. If you were depressed, you couldn't get it. It wouldn't work. It would not work. Okay? All right. So let's do a little bit more, and then we'll finish. We access all these 5 levels via a mechanism. Okay? These 5 levels of the soul need to be enhanced, accessed, elevated, treated well. I don't know how else you want to describe it. The mechanism for impacting the neshama comes through the actions of the body. So we're going to look at an incredible piece of Chavetz Chaim, which is found in his introduction, not to the Mishnah Berurah, but to the Shmirat HaLashon, the speech book, all the laws of good and positive speech. Why he puts this idea over there is a great question, which we may have time for. But let's first talk about how the 613 mitzvot, also known as Taryag, okay? Taryag is 613 mitzvot, are really mechanisms by which the body, because you do these mitzvot with your body, influence the soul. Either negatively or /and positively. Because we have certain mitzvot that we are meant to do, which are called mitzvot aseh. These 613 are divided up into mitzvot aseh, the stuff you're meant to do, and mitzvot, what's the opposite? Lo taseh. And how many mitzvot aseh do we have? 248. Which, if you take 248 from 613, you end up with 365 lo taseh. That's one of the famous divisions of the mitzvot. What he's about to say is pretty wild. The Chavetz Chaim is going to tell us that these 613 mitzvot that are divided into 248 positive mitzvot, the stuff you're meant to do, right? Keep Shabbat, and stuff you're not meant to do, eat pig, right? Keep kosher, are located in these 2 groupings. But we've been saying that the body and soul come together, which means that your body is also divided up into this division. Because your body, if you remember, mirrors your soul. So he's going to say, and this is not, he didn't make this up, this is based upon many, many early sources, your guf is also divided up into 613. 1 second. The guf also has the same division, and it is Ramach. Ramach is the number. That's 248. Can you see it? Ramach, 248. Avarim, limbs. And, so this is a number, yeah? 248. So I'll put a little chipchik. And Shasa, which is 365. gidin. I think sinews. So this comparison of body and soul is not just like, a nice metaphor. Your body actually is also divided up into 613 parts. Ramach evarim, Ramach has 248 limbs, and Shasa gidin, 365 sinews. So your body now physically represents your neshama, your soul. That's what the Chofetz Chaim is saying. It's a wild idea. Wait a minute. So that means for every part of the body, there's a part of the soul. And then that will correspond to 613 mitzvot. So could I locate a specific mitzvah in an actual part of my body? And the rabbis are like, yeah. Some people have this knowledge. They can say you can locate a specific mitzvah in a particular part of the body which corresponds to a different part of the soul. Because each mitzvah ends up impacting a different part of the neshama. Are you following this wild idea?
Can you repeat it?
Yeah. We're finding there's 3 layers over here. We're saying that you have 630 mitzvot. And they're divided up into positive mitzvot, stuff you do, and negative mitzvot, stuff you shouldn't do. And he's like, yeah, but did you know that your body is also divided up into 613 parts, 248 limbs, and 365 sinews? I'm not sure the exact calculation, what part, but that's the way Chofetz Chaim Pata, he's going to say it's a known thing. Davar Yadua, I don't know how, but it's like a known thing. So your body now represents 613 mitzvot, but your soul is also divided into 613 parts as well. So each mitzvah corresponds to a different part of your body and a different part of your soul. So it could well be that one part of your body could actually contain within it a specific part of the soul, which we know, and a very specific mitzvah for that part of the body and that part of the soul. That's exactly what he's going to say. Where are those pieces? I don't know. But along the way you hear certain mitzvot impact. Now, there is a book called the Sefer, I think it's Hasidim, I think he says this. He says that's why you do different mitzvot, different parts of your body. You do a mitzvah shofar, you're impacting your ear, but there's a soul part of your ear as well. And you eat matzah, you're affecting your stomach and your mouth and your teeth, right? Because you eat that. So he actually says you can actually locate a different mitzvah, different part of your body, and there are certain books that actually list the mitzvah according to body parts. Prayer, you're actually impacting your, I would have thought mouth, but he says no, it's your heart, because you pray from your heart. Avodah shebalev. You pray from your heart. So each mitzvah is located in a part of the neshama and different part of the body. That's what he says. I'll show you inside. And he says it's known, look, yaduahu, I mean, maybe to him it was, the chol adam yesh lo ramach evarim v'shasa gidim. 240 spiritual limbs, 365 spiritual sinews that are clothed in physical body. Right? And he quotes Job, Eov. Right? By the way, do you anyone know who Eov was, by the way?
He wasn't a Jew.
He was not Jewish. That's correct. He was a very holy, non-Jewish person. Rashi says actually lived in the land of Israel before the Jewish people entered. Actually, some say that he didn't even exist. There's an opinion in the Gemara Baba Batra that says that Moshe Rabbeinu made up the story of Eov to illustrate the ideas of righteous people suffering greatly. Why the righteous suffer in this world. But the consensus is that he did exist. He lived in those days of Moshe Rabbeinu, and he was a very great person. And he says, with skin and flesh you have clothed me, with bones and sinews you have covered me. So the verse mentions skin and flesh, covering. What's it covering? Must be the neshama. Well, your entire physical body, it's not a covering, it just is. That's a lump of meat. So no, it means that it's a covering of the neshama. That's what Eov was saying when he said those words. Okay. Who is being clothed, says the Chofetz Chaim? Obviously, is the neshama inside a person. Okay, so each and every person is made up of limbs and sinews, and they're like clothing on the body that covers the soul. Corresponding to this is the final part. Hashem gave us mitzvot, which are aseh and lo taseh, which are divided up according to limbs. Right? Commandments related to the hands and the feet and to other limbs. When a person in this world does a commandment with a certain limb, now this is a very important part that we're going to need for Mashiach, part of the course, but I'm mentioning it now. He says, "Kashadam mekayim ba'olam hazeh," when you do a certain mitzvah, be'ezeh ever with a certain limb in your body, yeah, shoreh latid, in the future is going to shine an or, a light on that part of the body. When? The body dies. Tchiat hametim. Well, after the resurrection of the dead, you're going to see a light on that part of the limb based upon the mitzvah you did with that limb while you were alive in this world. That's what the Chafetz Chaim is saying. Okay? So when a person does this mitzvah, you're impacting the neshama, you're impacting the physical body, and you're impacting your actual limbs after Tchiat HaMetim, resurrection of the dead. It's pretty wild stuff, I know. And that's just his introduction. I think he put it in Shmirat HaLashon, in the laws of Lashon Hara, because his idea is that speech is the greatest mitzvah you can do, speaking well and prayer and, speaking well of other people, and Lashon Hara can ruin the entire soul. Maybe that's why he put this in his introduction to the laws of Lashon Hara. Yeah?
What do we say, like, when someone loses a limb, or it's like a heart transplant, the ruach?
No. So when a person's alive, right, if a person loses a limb, l'aleinu, it's still there in a spiritual sense. It's still there, absolutely. And if a person is born without a certain faculty, they may be patur for the mitzvah, but the neshama still has it. And neshama is shalem. A body does not have to be.
So what about like if someone gets a heart transplant?
Then that becomes their heart. In every way, shape, or form. That becomes their heart. Yeah. But if lo aleinu, a person dies, and bits of their body are removed,
Like organ donors?
well, that's something they're doing a mitzvah with it, by taking an organ and give it to someone else. So there's some people who aren't in favor of it, but yes. But I'm saying if a person dies and their body, you have to bury every part of their body. You have, what's that organization, Eretz Yisrael, that goes after these bomb blasts? Zaka, right. They're doing a tremendous mitzvah. They're inherently saying that the body itself has a kedusha and needs to be buried. All right? Okay. The next part's going to take us too long to start right now. So we are going to stop early, because once I get into the next piece, it's a whole chapter of itself. There will not be class this Thursday. I'm going to be away. I have to go abroad for something. So, as the old joke goes, have you been abroad? No, I've always been a guy. So that's going to be happening on Thursday. We know class. The next class will be on Tuesday. Okay, we'll stop there.